Colleagues, it's a great pleasure for us to welcome the Minister of Environment and Water Affairs, Edna Molewa, who needs very little introduction, and also the CEO of South African National Parks, Dr. David Mabunda. Welcome to you, Doctor. Always great seeing you. And to his right, we have the Deputy Director General for Biodiversity in the Department of Environmental Affairs. Welcome to you. Colleagues, last week we had news that 11 rhino carcasses were found in the Kruger National Park, and a subsequent report indicated that 2 poachers had been shot dead and a further 2 arrested. And I think that sparked a lot of interest, a lot of questions, a lot of anger amongst many members, not only of the media fraternity, but civil society at large. And then there were suggestions that between the 1st of Jan and last week, at least 22 or 24 rhinos had been killed or poached in other parts of South Africa. The press club then made contact, as we usually do, with our very friendly Minister Molewa, who always makes herself available, and she was happy to address this issue to outline government's plans.
And she drove here on her own.
Yeah, she drove here on her own without a driver. I won't ask whether the blue lights were on. Welcome to you, Minister. We'll give the Minister a chance to outline government's plans and measures to curb rhino poaching, and then Dr. David Mabunda will say a few words and then we'll take questions. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Yusuf, Chair, and the members of the press club. I would also like just to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues who are here with me, and also most particularly thank you very much for the interest that you have had in this matter of rhino, or anti-rhino poaching group, let me rather say. I would like to indicate that we really are, as a department and as government, expressing our very serious dismay and very strong condemnation of the ongoing scourge of rhino poaching in our country, which has indeed had a staggering number of 448 rhinos illegally killed in South Africa in 2011 alone. Added to that figure is the figure that you have just given now, Yusuf. This ongoing poaching of our rhino population is a source for great concern to our government and various stakeholders. We know ordinary people on the ground, we often hear them also very worried about this particular problem. It does require all of us, ladies and gentlemen, as a collective South African population, to really resolve to take very drastic measures to combat this problem. I would like to assure you, from the bottom of our hearts indeed, that the South African government, we view this illegal killing of the national treasure in a very, very serious light, and will continue to prioritize our fight against this crime jointly with our law enforcement. You note that I emphasize the word our national treasure, because we do believe these are assets, very important assets of our country indeed, and if we let go and not do much or even at all to combat this problem, we will continue to lose our assets. We will continue to implement the various initiatives that we highlighted last year when we called a press conference to speak to South Africa about the measures that we are taking, but at the same time we'll be putting in place added measures to address this matter. In other words, what we mean is that as we go on, whatever comes up as a new initiative, be it from ordinary members of the society or from yourselves as media, we'll look at that and indeed continue to reinforce our attempts and struggle against this crime. We have established the National Biodiversity Investigators Forum, specifically for multi-departmental cooperation and information sharing with various law enforcement. And in addition to the Investigators Forum, ladies and gentlemen from the media, we've also established the interim National Wildlife Reaction Unit that we would like to establish as a permanent unit. It's interim at the moment, but would like to have that as a permanent unit. We've also seen the return of the South African National Defence Force to our borders to monitor the 350 kilometers of national border in the Kruger National Park and other country borders. And most of our rhino population is in the Kruger National Park, we know, which has faced an onslaught from these poachers. We will deploy additional 150 rangers to the Kruger National Park this year to add to the current 500 rangers to address this crime. This is how serious we are in relation to ensuring that security is reinforced, in particular in that area. And as additional measure, the Department of Environmental Affairs, of course, working with its entities and with other people, will implement a decision to deploy our conservation specialists at key designated ports of entry and exit, through which the international trade and endangered species, mainly listed CITES listed, can be imported and exported. The designations of the port should also be extended to include all wildlife species imported and exported to and from South Africa under the National Environment Management Act Biodiversity, which is NEMBA. Why are we doing that? We really are introducing this as a measure to strengthen our capacity to reinforce law enforcement, or to strengthen law enforcement. This will include all indigenous species and those species that are listed as alien and those that are invasive. Because this scourge is not just happening in the rhino, but in other areas as well. So we'll not just have officials deployed in those ports of entries just monitoring one aspect of this crime. And such measures will facilitate effective regulatory enforcement by enabling wildlife and customs officers to conduct inspections and associated endorsement mechanisms in compliance with international obligations under the CITES and with the NEMBA, in compliance with the NEMBA as well. The Department of Environmental Affairs is also working towards ensuring that at least 2 facilities are secured where wildlife officials at ports of entry and exit can inspect and examine wildlife consignment. And that would be at the OR Tambo and at the Sea Point. So we believe that these 2 areas needs to be strengthened, the specialized work that we need to do. The Operation Rhino still remains a standing agenda item on the National Joint Committee, which has been established. We know, I'm sure all of us are familiar with the net joints, which comprises the senior members of SAPS, the NPA and South African National Defence Force. This committee is responsible for coordination, joint planning and implementation of high priority security measures. And as a result of this cooperation, 232 people were arrested in 2011 alone for rhino poaching and related activities. More often than not, ladies and gentlemen, we hear the figures of rhinos that are poached, but this figure of people that are actually arrested never comes up. So there are people who are being arrested on a daily basis, and we're dealing with those issues. Again, thanks to this net joints and the cooperation that we have with our security forces. Our efforts at the international level have been intensified. We have up to date, formally and on a numerous occasion, engaged our counterparts in the People's Republic of China and the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. We managed within a short space of time, ladies and gentlemen, to prepare the Memorandum of Understanding on wildlife trafficking and enforcement, which we hope to sign during the first half of this year in 2012. Both these countries have actually pledged their commitments to partner with us in addressing this scourge. I've had an opportunity to meet my counterpart personally in China, and the Deputy President and the technical team have also met the Vietnamese. So we are moving on with these 2 countries. With regards to the bilateral on safety and security between South Africa and Mozambique, at officials level, ladies and gentlemen, a discussion on cross-border law enforcement has already taken place, and will escalate this to the level of ministers. I've already written to my counterpart requesting that meeting late last year. Unfortunately, we're busy still with COP, we couldn't meet, but we have prioritized that meeting this year just to deal with these issues between ourselves and Mozambique. We'll cooperate with SAPS in finalizing a strategy on cross-border law enforcement involving wildlife issues. Our Department of Environmental Affairs has also played an active role and contributed to the international meetings and forums, including the Interpol wildlife crime meetings, the Rhinoceros Task Force of CITES, the Regional Rhino and Elephant Security and Rhino Management Group. You may be aware that in mid-November last year, the People's Republic of China, on their own, not having been told by us, not having been asked by us, on their own seized 33 rhino horns, 758 ivory chopsticks, and 127 ivory bracelets worth 18.1 million rand in Hong Kong. We are currently finalizing the due process in collaboration with the judiciary in Hong Kong that will allow us to take samples of the DNA. I have already signed off a departure of a group that is going to take those samples. We have also been thinking that perhaps we should include one or two of your team members from the media so that you are also accompanying that group. That process will enable us to determine the actual origin of these seized rhino horns and also contribute to evidence in the court proceedings that will ensue.